Dr. Mitchell, you're muted.
Thank you so much. Okay, so thank you so much for joining us here today. I know that several of you just were there for Dr. Harrington's presentation, and I appreciate your time on this, and thank you again for joining us. We do want to speak specifically about the high school a little bit, so we do ask for a little bit more of your time, and as you know, you can kind of ask your questions as we go through the presentation tonight, and if you have any questions at all, type them in there. We've done our best in this presentation to answer the questions that have been entered already. But again, we're going to continue to monitor your questions, and we'll answer them as best we can. Okay, so we're just about ready to begin. I'm sorry, I just want to make sure we got everything figured out here. And there we go. Now, here we go. Can everybody see my presentation screen? Dr. Zirianis, Mr. McKeel, you can see my presentation?
You're
Beautiful.
good.
Thank you so much. I certainly understand that many of you may be experiencing some anxiety in regard to this upcoming school year, and our goal with this presentation is to alleviate some of those concerns. I can assure you that our staff has been working tirelessly to prepare for the upcoming year, both through the lens of health and safety and through the lens of academics. The reality is that there is not one perfect solution to our current situation, and we are always willing to review, reflect, and reassess. But I am confident that we are ready to go for the upcoming school year. I want to thank each of you for your patience and dedication as well. As a parent myself, I certainly understand where your questions and concerns come from, and I am here to answer those. I know that I've spoken to several of you over the phone or email already, and I remind you that you're always welcome to contact me directly for any follow-up. Now, I want to start tonight with a quick overview of our goals in planning and preparing for the upcoming school year. Of course, the health and safety of our students and our staff was the top priority. However, we also knew how important it is for students to feel connected and supported, whether they are in the building or learning at home. The social emotional wellness of our students continues to be a key component in all of our decision making. Additionally, we knew that whatever the format, our instruction had to be engaging, participatory, developed through research and good practice, and drive the education of our students forward. Our curriculum remains relevant, standards-based, while preparing our students for all future assessments. Our teachers are extraordinary. Our teachers are dedicated, and I am confident that these goals will be met throughout the school year. Now, as you know, the Oceanside School District was required to develop various plans on reentry to submit to New York State. Our current plan for the beginning of this year is to open with hybrid learning, which consists of 2 cohorts, blue and white, attending school on an alternating basis. Cohort A, our blue cohort, will attend school on Tuesdays and Wednesdays, and Cohort B, our white cohort, will attend on Thursdays and Fridays. Mondays will alternate, resulting in each cohort attending in-person instruction 2 to 3 times a week. Now, a quick note on cohorts. Even cohort grouping was created through software in our Infinite Campus system. This allowed for a balanced split of students, both building-wide and throughout specific classes. Unfortunately, as this balance affords us the greater ability for social distancing and a safer building, we will not be able to accommodate cohort switches among students. We apologize for this inconvenience. Now, additionally, Oceanside High School has offered the all-remote learning option for any parent student that chose to do so. These students will remain home each day of the week and complete their learning through a combination of synchronous, which is live, and asynchronous instruction. Finally, we are also prepared with a fully remote distance learning plan and schedule should we be forced to close school at any time. Student schedules and cohorts will be available to students this Wednesday, August 26th. Now, in addition to the upcoming schedules and cohort groups, a special student parent handbook has been developed for this coming school year as well. This includes necessary information on the hybrid distance learning plan, including specific information as it relates to health and safety. Additionally, we have created an informational video that is available to the community that reviews these guidelines and changes to our physical space. I hope you've seen it if you haven't already. As I mentioned, we know that we are starting this school year with our hybrid model, and this is a glimpse of what that will look like for our students. You can see here the alternating day plan, and students will be given a copy of this model, and we will have frequent opportunities and notices throughout our school days to keep students informed. Now, our arrival procedures remain mostly similar to previous years, except that we have added an additional entrance at the auditorium. Students will not be allowed to congregate in hallways before school starts, but rather we will have designated socially distant locations around the building for them to wait prior to the school day beginning. Breakfast will still be available to students in the morning. Our cafeteria has been redesigned in a socially distant setup that allows students to take off their masks when sitting down to eat. In terms of lunch, we are maintaining an open campus for 11th and 12th graders. Further, I have received some questions about students whose schedules do not include a lunch period. Unfortunately, for safety reasons, we cannot allow these students to eat in class. However, we are working on a system with teachers that will allow for these students to have for eating as it works in the schedule. That remains in development. Now, hallways have been marked and indicated to ensure smooth traffic flow with one-way traffic on either side of the hallway and indicators to keep the middle of our hallways clear. Some stairwells will be one-directional. Further, we will not utilize lockers to begin the school year. Students will be required to carry personal belongings with them throughout the day, although we are looking for ways in which they will be able to drop off their musical instruments should they have one. It will be imperative that students bring Chromebooks to school every day and have them fully charged and ready to go. We recognize that additional time may be needed for student transitions, especially at the beginning of the school year as students familiarize themselves with schedules and traffic. We will continue to monitor traffic flow at the start of the school year and make any further adjustments as needed. But rest assured, we realize that students may be arriving late to some classes as we all get used to this. Now, with our hybrid model, our classrooms will be on average about 50% capacity, with most regular classes having approximately 15 students in the room, but that will be contingent upon social distancing requirements. Desks in the classroom will be marked to indicate appropriate social distancing. In most classroom, desks will all remain in the room, with markers indicating which seats to sit at and which ones will be off limits. However, in some of our smaller classrooms, we have removed certain desks to allow for more spacing. Please note, that individual classroom desks will not have barriers. However, we will have some barriers set up in certain high traffic areas of the school. As a reminder, and I know you've heard this frequently and you will continue to hear it, masks will be required in all classrooms during instruction. There will be opportunities for mask breaks in designated areas of the school. I have received some questions about how PE classes are going to work. These classes will be held outside whenever possible. To start the year, we will not utilize any equipment in PE, but rather focus on fitness-related activities. In the event that weather does not allow for outdoor classes, we have several designated spaces for these classes to take place inside with appropriate social distancing. Similarly, all additional social distancing requirements will be followed for orchestra, choral, dance, and theater students. In some cases, the location of these classes will change for safety purposes. In continuing with our hybrid model, I want to take a moment and focus on what these days will look like when your child's at home. Our goal was to increase student accountability as if it were a regular day of school, while also being mindful of research and best practices on remote learning. Students will still follow the regular OHS bell schedule and still be responsible for attendance in all of their classes. Classes while at home will consist of both synchronous, which is live, and asynchronous instruction with their teachers. It's highly recommended that our students or that your children create a designated space at home when possible for these remote days at school. Now, we'll have a snapshot calendar on the OHS website that will help students and families keep track of the hybrid schedule throughout the beginning of the year. We recognize that this is new and will make all efforts to communicate information as it becomes available. As I previously mentioned, we wanted to create a schedule that provides structure and accountability for students while also being mindful of recommendations on extended screen time for students. We truly feel that this schedule allows for this. Throughout the day, students will be accountable for all of their classes with several real-time connections. You're going to hear that phrase often, real-time connections, with their regular teachers. Some assignments will be due in real time. Remember, this is not by any means a day off from school. It is simply a shift in where and how the learning is taking place. School is still in session. In a moment, Dr. Zirianis will further explain real-time connections and the hybrid model. However, I want to provide first a few overall updates on health and safety. As Dr. Harrington mentioned, we are asking for your help and the help of all families to monitor for any signs and symptoms of COVID-19 from home and to complete a parent assurance that speaks to this. We recognize that some regular health issues, such as allergies, may result in similar symptoms, and your assurance will be critical in that area. Further, again, I'm going to say it, please remember that masks will be required in classrooms and in transitions at OHS. We will establish mask break locations and clear protocol for students on taking these mask breaks. We recognize that's important. If a student refuses to wear a mask, they will be escorted to a socially distant location in the building, and a parent guardian will be notified. Masks must be worn in school. Hand sanitizer will be available in all classrooms and at various freestanding hand sanitizing stations in the schools, in our school. We have made the decision to temporarily close resource centers to students at the beginning of the year as we examine and assess traffic and our social distancing capabilities in these spaces. Teachers will still be available through virtual extra help, and we are working to create virtual resource centers for students as well. Additionally, our testing center will still be available for students throughout the day. Now, I know you heard some of this from Dr. Harrington if you were previously listening to her, but I'll repeat because it is worth repeating. Throughout the summer, the HVAC team at OHS has opened up and serviced every univent in the building. This process includes cleaning, vacuuming, and flushing the systems, testing the dampers, disinfecting, and changing updating filters as needed. Additionally, our univents and exhaust fans will now remain in occupied mode. This is a CDC recommendation. They'll remain in occupied mode for 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, in order to increase the ventilation of the building. Further, we've had a dedicated window team completing a building-wide audit and review of all windows to ensure that all windows will be able to stay open at the maximum allowable height for the bottom portion of the window, and that all top sections of the windows will be able to open and provide additional ventilation and circulation in the classrooms. In addition to the normal cleaning procedures each night, the district has designated and trained a specific team for additional sanitizing and disinfecting. Further, the district will utilize electrostatic sprayer technology for the daily disinfecting and sanitizing that must occur. Guests, of course, will be strictly monitored at OHS, and we are attempting to conduct all meetings, including those parent meetings, virtually whenever possible. All guests of the building will be required to wear a mask, and they must complete a health screening prior to entering the building. Further, we are establishing a secondary nurse's office for those students that are exhibiting symptoms of COVID-19. And as you know, Oceanside School District released a document on Friday that addresses all procedures for when a student or staff member has COVID-19 or was exposed to someone with COVID-19. We will work closely with Nassau County, the Department of Health, and New York State to follow all protocol. Now, at this point, I'd like to turn it over to my colleague, Dr. Beth Zirianis, to speak a little bit further on real-time connection, that RTC that you keep hearing about, and how this will work with our students from home. Dr. Z, take it away.
Thank you, Dr. Mitchell. Can you hear me?
I can hear you great.
Okay. So one of the important features of the hybrid model was that we wanted to make sure that we learned, and we did, from our experience in March through June when all of our students were learning from home. And we wanted to make sure that on those days that students were learning from home in the hybrid model, that they would be connected to the school, connected to their teacher, and be connected to the learning that was taking place. It was really important for us that we made sure that all the students were feeling connected Monday through Friday. So what we've instituted at OHS is something that we're calling real-time connection periods. So you're going to hear, as Dr. Mitchell said, that phrase RTC periods very often. You'll hear your kids talking about it when we have our virtual back to school night. That was one of the questions that was posted in real time, with whether we were going to have a virtual back to school night. We will. You'll hear your students, your children's teachers talking about RTC periods. You'll see it in the handbook that we're going to be sending home to you. An RTC period is exactly that. It's a real-time live connection. And the rationale behind that was connecting our students to their teachers and to their peers. What we didn't want to happen was what we noticed was happening in March through June, that students who were learning from home were not really following a predictable schedule. They might be waking up at noon, going to bed at 3 a.m., checking in on their learning later in the day, and then they weren't really able to connect with their teachers to support their learning. So what we're trying to avoid through these real-time connections is just that. We want our students to have a very positive and productive schedule. So even when they're learning from home, they're getting up at their regular time, they're getting to their computer at the start of first period. But what we also wanted to avoid, as Dr. Mitchell said, based on research, was we wanted to avoid our students literally sitting as passive learners 9 periods a day. So these RTC periods will help to connect our students, but it will avoid them learning from their computer and just being passive 9 periods a day. You'll see that your child's teachers in all of their 9 periods will be utilizing various tools throughout the school year to make these real-time connections. We've done a lot of professional development at OHS. Our teachers are amazing, learning how to use these tools to make real-time connections. And the goal of these connections is to help move the curriculum forward, to make sure that our students' social and emotional well-being is checked in on, and certainly, like I said, to help students maintain that positive and productive schedule. Attendance for all live periods is mandatory, and all the rules of distance learning that you'll see in the parent and student handbook that is outlined in there will apply to any of those periods that there is a real-time connection. So please note that when students are learning from home, just like when they're learning in the classroom, that attendance will be taken daily, even if there is no real-time connection period that day and the learning is mostly asynchronous, which is not live. Students will be, and more to come on this. It's not, our policies and procedures for this have not been finalized, but students will be a part of taking their own attendance on a virtual attendance app that's going to be used through our Infinite Campus portal. So more to come on that. Please know in advance that there will be no scheduled real-time connections for lunch. Obviously, we want them to take their mask break and relax. And during the physical education period. The reason for this is not because we don't value physical education, but because we are encouraging our physical education teachers to be outside unless the weather is completely unacceptable, just to keep our students safe. So it would be hard to connect virtually when our students are outside. But please note, I saw one of the live time questions here was about physical education. Please note that our physical education teachers will be providing asynchronous instruction on Google Classroom on the days that kids are at home. And of course, students will be participating in physical education on the days that they are in, okay? Please also note that there is going to be work posted for every period, all 9 periods that a child has an assigned class, even if it is not a live real-time connection. And children are responsible for checking every class's Google Classroom and completing all of the assignments. And some of those assignments are going to be due in real time. And that is why it is important if a child has a class, period 2, they need to be at their computer at 8:34, like they would be if they were in the class at 8:34 at OHS, because their assignment might be due that period at the end of the period. They can't check that Google Classroom at 1 o'clock in the afternoon. They will have missed the assignment. So again, they need to be checking their Google Classroom every single period, okay? And RTC periods will be scheduled individually by the teachers. They should check directly with their teachers and check Google Classroom for those connections. And again, as said previously, attendance is required.
Thank you, Dr. Z. I want to take a moment for those parents and families that have selected the all remote option for your child to start the year. As a reminder, we did ask for this commitment through early January as our cohort balances and classroom construction were established based on these requests. I'm happy to say that our all remote students will still be able to maintain those important connections with their regular teachers and follow their regular full schedule. All our remote students will also follow the hybrid schedule. This will mean that they will have a combination of asynchronous and synchronous teaching, and that all of those RTC periods, those real-time connection periods that Dr. Z just spoke about, will also be available to them at home. In this way, we can ensure that same accountability and that same connectedness for these students. We created this approach to remote instruction as it will allow for these students to maintain connections with teachers and classmates alike and still feel like an important, valued member of Oceanside High School. Although they're learning at home, they are OHS students through and through. In the event that your child chooses to return to school in January, by following this hybrid schedule, they will be able to more seamlessly return to classes with those same teachers and those same classmates that they have worked with since September. Now, we also recognize the importance of extra and co-curricular opportunities for our students, as this helps foster that connection and community among all of our students. To start the year, all clubs will be through a virtual platform for a variety of reasons. We will continue to assess and explore when we're able to return to in-person meetings when safe and reasonable. Extra help will still be available to students, although through the virtual format to start the year. Teachers will post their extra help schedules at the beginning of the year. We continue to await further guidance from Governor Cuomo and New York State in regard to athletics. As Dr. Harrington mentioned previously, there were some new announcements earlier today, and we are waiting for further guidance from the state in regard to athletics. For now, we're on hold and we wait for more information there. Now, back to our remote schedule, and this is really important. This is if we are all fully learning from home. So this is a slightly different schedule than the hybrid schedule that we're starting with, but we thought it was important tonight to kind of address, in the event that we have a full school closure where nobody is coming to class in person, what that remote schedule will look like. And to further explain that, I'll turn it back to my colleague, Dr. Z.
Thank you, Dr. Mitchell. I just wanted to address two questions that came up from the last slide that I covered. Will real-time connections have actual live lessons and not just assignments? Yes, the idea of real-time connections, it might not necessarily be a real-time lesson. Some teachers will be streaming, some teachers will be utilizing other tools, but the idea is that it is a real-time connection where your students are connecting, whether through a Google Meet or other tools, and they are collaborating with peers in real time or with their teacher in real time. Real-time connections are just that, connections. They're not necessarily real-time instruction, but they will be connections that will move the instruction forward. Every teacher is going to take a different approach to real-time connections, and we are confident that our teachers are going to connect with those students at home. They're going to help to move their learning forward, and most importantly, they're going to help to make your children, on the days that they are home, feel like they are connected to their peers and to them and to the school community. So I think you're going to see a lot of great learning taking place through the RTC. There was also a question about all the remote students, whether they will have PE. All remote students will have PE in an asynchronous. They will be part of those asynchronous lessons that our physical education teachers are delivering to our students in the hybrid model on the days that they are home. So they will have plenty of physical education activities and videos and things of that nature that they can follow to ensure their own physical fitness and health. All right, now I'll jump into what you really asked me to do. So this is the all remote schedule. Again, this is not, just to clarify, as Dr. Mitchell said, this is not for our students currently right now who are in the hybrid model but chose the all remote model. This is for if OHS were to completely close again, like we did from March through June, and all students, regardless of what they chose this time, are learning from home and our teachers are teaching from home. This schedule, again, was one that we used a lot of research to design. We used a lot of student, staff, and parent feedback from their experiences in March through June. As you can see, much like the hybrid schedule, we eliminated that 6-day cycle that is typical at OHS and OMS and our buildings. We're working on a Monday through Friday schedule. You can note that it is going to be a combination of live synchronous instruction and asynchronous, which is not live, instruction daily. But all of those highlighted periods that you see on the schedule is live instruction. So you'll note that your child every single day, if we are home, will have 4 classes a day. It looks like 5 on Tuesday and Friday, but one of those is a lunch period. We'll have 4 classes of 55 minutes in length of live instruction with their teacher. And in addition, they will have asynchronous work from their classes to complete. So it will be a very nice balance that will keep that live connection going, but will not keep our kids tethered to a computer 9 periods a day. There is something called screen fatigue, and screen time is a real issue. All of us working in the environment right now and attending multiple meetings a day on a Google Meet know just how real that is, and we want to make sure that we avoid that for our students. This schedule will also allow small group instructional opportunities for everyone. You can see Wednesday on that flex time. And of course, if we were to move into this model, there would be more information to come. The parent and student handbook has a ton of information. And I just actually recorded a video that we're going to go over this for our students during the extended orientation. That video will get posted on the website for parents. And it is also linked to the parent and family handbook. So you can watch that video, enough times to just kind of help you really digest what these schedules mean and what they look like.
Now, we know that support for our Oceanside High School families will be critical this year in terms of academics, in technology and mental wellness. And our dedicated team of PPS workers, along with Ms. Mason, one of our associate principals, our school counselors, social workers, and school psychologists, are setting up various opportunities to connect with students, both in the building and from home. Additionally, we are incorporating an increased partnership between our PPS team and our PE health teachers in order to facilitate more lessons on mental health and wellness, and making sure our students and staff know where they can go for help with this. As a reminder, we have various virtual help opportunities accessible to you and our students in each of these areas. Our back to school night will be virtual this year, as Dr. Harrington mentioned previously, and we are currently exploring how to make this as meaningful and informative as possible for you. Another quick note on school counselors. This was a question that I have received a few times. We know how critical their role is for our students, especially many of the upperclassmen as they begin to navigate the college process. These school counselors are, like I said, are dedicated and wonderful, and they will continue to play this important role this year, both virtually and in person for your child. I did mention orientations and just want to again state that our virtual freshman orientation is this Friday, August 28th. This program will give our freshman students an opportunity to work with their school counselors virtually, with their teachers and fellow classmates to learn more about the high school. Additionally, we are conducting an extended orientation from Tuesday, September 8th through Friday, September 11th. Now, you'll receive more information on this once you receive your child's schedule and cohort group. However, please note for planning purposes that your child will attend for a full day of school on one of these days. So as you can see, we'll have a clear breakdown. And once you get your schedule and your cohort, you'll be able to see exactly which day your child will be expected at school. Now, I did attempt to answer as many questions as possible throughout the presentation based on the questions that I did receive ahead of time. Of course, I'm sure that there were some questions that probably came through as we were speaking, both Dr. Zirianis and I. I know Dr. Z already answered a few of those about RTCs, but along with Dr. Zirianis, I have Mr. McKeel and Ms. Mason here with us today. And at this point, if we have any additional questions submitted during the course of this presentation, we can do our best to answer them. However, I will say at the conclusion of tomorrow's parent meeting, I am offering the same presentation tomorrow morning. So if you're watching now, please don't feel obligated to come tomorrow morning, but I am completing the same presentation tomorrow morning at 9 a.m. At the conclusion of tomorrow morning's presentation, I will be putting together a full FAQ document based on the questions that you've previously submitted and any new questions that were submitted tonight and we perhaps didn't get to, that I will be distributing to parents and families as soon as possible to get as much information as possible to you as soon as we can. The big thing, as you know, schedules and cohort groups will be coming this Wednesday. Dr. Z or Mr. McKeel, Ms. Mason, any questions, any further questions that we should be answering this evening? I know it's been a long night for everybody. Thank you for your time with Dr. Harrington's presentation as well.
A lot of questions, but you just answered about when schedules and cohorts will come out. That is on Wednesday. Do you know what time on Wednesday that question is being asked?
I do not know the exact time. I apologize. And I apologize for my dog in the background.
And you were so worried about that, Dr. Mitchell.
He did great right until the end. Then he started barking. Sorry, everybody.
We have a question about, will the library be open? So I guess you want me to answer it? The library will be open at the start of the school year. We will not be opening before and after school as we typically do, just to avoid students congregating. We will be open all day, and we will keep evaluating that week by week to determine whether we can open before and after school. Dr. Mitchell, parents would like to know, what time would you advise students entering the building then if there's not going to be that allowance for congregation in the hallways?
Mr. McKeel, you want to assist with that question there, your suggestion?
Yes, I do. And I just want to thank everyone again, just like Dr. Z and Dr. Mitchell did, for being here with us tonight. It's a difficult question in a sense, like we want to balance out enough time for them to get to an area essentially. But getting there early would not work. So definitely after 7:30 is recommended. Before 7:30 presents plenty of challenges. Again, we know that's difficult. We are going to accommodate all students. Essentially, our goal is to, maximize the amount of space to mitigate social distancing and everything else. And we are creating a whole bunch of different holding facilities. We don't have all of those, but they will include the cafeteria, the auditorium, one of the auxiliary gyms. So there are going to be areas for people to go before school. But again, I think 7:30 is probably a good time to aim for. That's safe. So they get in, they get to an area, and then we're going to try to get them to classes as soon as we possibly can. So we're kind of still working out those details, and we will give more information to all our students during orientation week. Thank you.
Dr. Mitchell, can I just, as the questions are coming in, some of them are, I can just answer them quickly. What time does first period start? Officially that time, and this might be for obviously ninth grade parents, is 7:50. And what time does ninth period end? It ends at 2:35. So that is the end. I get confused because all the different buildings I work in, but the high school is 2:35. Due to screen fatigue, will there be additional homework after school hours? There will be homework, but we have asked teachers to keep in mind exactly that research and exactly why we've created the schedules that we have. So certainly there might be work to be done, but we've also asked teachers to ensure that some assignments are off screen so that kids can be shutting their computer and perhaps reading a novel or doing other things that are going to keep them off of the computer. Who is handling the teaching for the remote students? The all remote students are going to be taught by the classroom teachers that will appear on their academic schedule. This is not like the elementary school where we have a separate group of teachers teaching the students and families who have chosen the all remote model. Dr. Mitchell, what about BoCES? Will it be 5 days a week? And what happens on the days that kids are scheduled to be home?
My understanding the BoCES program is planning on running as normal. So if your child has if is on their cohort day not expected to be in school, then upon returning from BoCES, they would go home.
Okay, we're getting questions that people were on the wrong link. Will this meeting be posted? I know there's a repeat tomorrow morning, and then the best of the two will get posted, right, Dr. Mitchell?
Yes, the plan. I am completing another live stream tomorrow morning at 9 a.m. And then, yes, between the two, either the one tonight or the one tomorrow morning, one of those will be posted for people to view as well. Dr. Z, I just want to turn it over to Ms. Mason for a brief moment. just to kind of plug our virtual wellness center, something she's worked really hard on. Ms. Mason, are you there to speak about that briefly? I think you're muted.
Hi, I just want to say good evening to everyone and thank you again for joining us. I know there are a lot of mixed feelings about coming back to school. And I just want you to know everyone has been working so hard to bring everybody back and to make sure that all our families and students feel as comfortable as possible to come back. And I know during our school closure, we did put out a virtual wellness center, which has a ton of resources for families and for students and for staff to go and explore. They help with self-care, with, just strategies on how to, deal with, what health and wellness. And everybody's a little bit different when they're dealing with, stressful times and unprecedented times and coping strategies. And so this wellness center has a variety of different resources, as I mentioned, things such as mindfulness and meditation and breathing techniques and some art type stuff, some yoga strategies and things like that. And also some apps that you can use on your own personal devices if you want to explore those as well. The Wellness Center will continue to be updated, so we will put out that link again for all of you to go ahead and explore and navigate, and and we encourage you to use it as much as possible. And again, these are things we will also be discussing with the students when they come back to school.
Thank you, Ms. Mason. I
You're
appreciate
very
that.
welcome.
Any additional questions?
Yes, Dr. Mitchell. A couple of questions. I think just about the instructional piece, I can jump in and answer. But one, I think siblings will be in the same cohort, correct, Dr. Mitchell? That's been asked?
Correct, yes. As part of the Infinite Campus system, the cohorts were linked by household addresses. So siblings in middle school, high school will be in the same cohort.
A parent has asked if a student is homesick but logs into their classes and does the work, do they receive credit? Yes. We spoke about this today, and Dr. Harrington spoke about it at her 6 p.m. meeting, that fortunately the model that we're using at the high school will allow students who are at home and willing and able to participate in their real-time connections, complete the work in real time if needed, will be able to get credit for the day. So that'll be something that we will continue to share in our handbook, and teachers will talk with students at the start of school. And that information, I'm sure, will be shared again at back to school night. Has there been a revision to the DLT policy? Yes, that too appears in our district plan. Given that our DLT policy, or deficient learning time, is for 15 absences, and knowing that a child might have to quarantine based on exposure for 14 days, there will be a little bit more flexibility, and those that flexibility will be determined in concert with Dr. Mitchell.
Right, and I just want to again say, with schedules and cohort groups coming out Wednesday, very soon we'll also be releasing a special handbook for students and families as it relates to hybrid and distance learning. And a lot of those questions will be answered in that document as well.
And Dr. Mitchell, that did come up. Families want to know when they're going to be receiving that handbook, and whether there's going to be a separate orientation like we have from the 8th to 11th for the kids in the all remote school.
So more information is going to be coming for our all remote students. I do plan to schedule an all remote students only informational session for those students and families for next week. So those handbooks will be coming out later this week. We wanted schedules and cohort groups in hands first before you had the schedule as well, to kind of make sense of it all together. But then we'll be devoting some more special attention to our all remote parents and students and families, because I know there's going to be some additional questions there as well. So that'll be coming out soon.
There was a question about when virtual back to school night would be. I would imagine it would be the same date as regular back to school night, which was September 21st.
Yes,
and also a question about whether we think this model is going to help our students complete their AP curricular. I think that we are confident that the model we've put in place will allow all of our teachers to move curriculum and instruction forward, and for our students and your children to be ready for those exams. As of now, we're having Regents exams. There's been no word on those. And based on last year, I would think that AP exams would continue, since they did continue in that model. The resource centers, you mentioned about them being closed, Dr. Mitchell. There are questions on here if that also includes the Special Education Resource Center.
Well, I know, specifically for special education, we are looking at some different approaches for those students. Specifically, there is a special education meeting upcoming, I believe in the next couple of days, or possibly tomorrow. I think it was just announced through email that they will be able to better answer those questions in regard to those needs of students beyond our regular education students. So for our regular resource centers, those will be closed to students for the time being. This is an initial time as we kind of explore and make sure social distancing is taking place and make sure our building is safe. We'll continue, like I mentioned at the beginning of the meeting, this is something that we continue to reassess, we reevaluate, and we will reflect based on feedback from teachers, based on feedback from students and parents, of course, to determine the best practices for our students while also being mindful of everybody's health and wellness. So as far as the specific special education question, I will defer on that for now until you have that meeting tomorrow. But certainly email or get back to me with any questions that you have after that meeting.
A lot of questions about whether we're following the regular school calendar. I know that is true, and whether school calendars will be getting mailed home. That they will not be this year. So you need to look on the. They will only be posted monthly on the district website, because obviously we need some flexibility with events and things like that this year. We don't know exactly what's going to happen, what's not going to happen, what's going to be virtual. And I'm seeing some questions about so you said if my son is sick, he's expected to attend class via the computer. No, let me clarify. I'm sorry if that wasn't clear. We're saying that if your child is home and able to attend to their classwork, perhaps they're simply quarantining out of, precautions and things of that nature. Then we are saying that a kid could participate in their schoolwork from home and receive that credit. We are not asking any child who is ill to push themselves to do any sort of schoolwork. So I'm sorry if that wasn't clear. And I'm getting some questions. If I can please explain exactly how a teacher will be teaching to the students sitting in school, as well as the students who are sitting at home. So just to clarify what that means is that, yes, there will be a focus for the students on the days that they are in. The teachers will be paying careful attention. We value very much the time that students are going to be sitting with us in class. But we also know that our teachers, have been working really hard to prepare to also simultaneously work with our kids who are at home. For some classes, that might mean, and I've seen a lot of questions on here about questioning what live streaming is. For some of our teachers, it might be something like live streaming, where the kids, they're sending the same lesson home that they are doing in class, and kids are kind of sitting at their computer watching what's going on in the classroom. And for other teachers, they're going to use those real-time connections that are going to create other learning opportunities. So the teachers they are the expert in this. They're getting a ton of professional development. And I know that they're going to be able to do a great job simultaneously teaching or working with both students who are at home and in school. Every teacher, it's going to look different in every single class. So more on that to come as the weeks start up. More questions about BoCES. Will there be busing for BoCES? Dr. Mitchell?
Yeah, my understanding is that the BoCES bus will continue as normally scheduled.
Okay. What about the bathrooms? How are we going to avoid? There's many questions about congregation of students in the bathrooms.
Yeah, our bathroom, and Mr. McHale, you can jump in on this if you want to. The bathrooms will be strictly monitored. We are going to have one student at a time in the bathroom. We don't want this to be an area of congregation. Mr. McHale, anything to add to that one?
No, just the way we're going to socially distance other rooms, as you can imagine. Have you seen probably when you if you've been in stores or you've been to other places, public places so far, we are going to use, similar methods to socially distance there as well.
Are college visits still considered a legal absence?
Yes.
Okay. Will there be rapid testing for students or faculty having symptoms?
Well, according to that document that was released on Friday from Oceanside School District, we'll be referring testing procedures to, your general health practitioner for your testing and your evaluation.
Will desks be cleaned between classes?
No, this was something Dr. Harrington mentioned in her previous meeting at 6 p.m. The desks will not be sanitized and cleaned between classes for a variety of different reasons. What we have done instead, we do have hand sanitizing stations being added to every single classroom. Obviously, students will be encouraged to use the hand sanitizer before and at the end of class, but we will not be wiping down the desk between classes.
Are students allowed to wipe their own desks if they would like with an antibacterial wipe they bring themselves?
Yes, this is something Dr. Harrington referenced as well. If a student and you have a system by which they're bringing in their own wipes to wipe down the desks, by all means, they can do that.
There's a lot of questions, several of them about science labs, Dr. Mitchell, about how will we, our science lab hours for New York State Regents requirements change this year? How are we going to do science labs when kids aren't in school half the time? Several questions of that nature.
Yeah, I mean, those are questions, Dr. Christensen will be able to speak better to as director of science. I know they are looking at creative ways to complete all their necessary lab requirements. There is still an expectation of labs to be completed. So they're working, with their teachers to figure out the best method of doing that.
Okay, if your child is absent, is the protocol still to call the office, the attendance office, as per usual?
Yes, that is correct.
Will the full-time remote students be required to work with the hybrid students for assignments?
That's a possibility. We, like I stressed, we want our all remote students to feel connected to the Oceanside High School community. Just because they're all remote and they won't be in the building any day of the week, that doesn't mean they're not our students. We want to make sure we facilitate and foster those connections with teachers and students as much as possible. One, because it's just good practice. It's how students are going to learn best. But also, if they are able to return in January or make that decision to return in January, we want it to be a seamless transition back into the building with teachers and peers that they've worked with.
Great. Will cafeteria tables be wiped down between the lunch periods?
Yes.
Okay. Will my child's teacher be expected to make a real-time connection a certain number of times per week? Yes, every teacher, with the exception of our physical education department, will be on a schedule to make real-time connections. So if your child is home for Tuesday and Wednesday, then one of those 2 days, by the time those 2 days are finished, they would have had real-time connection periods with every single one of their teachers over the course of the 2 days. In addition, we have made the exception for classes that end in a Regents exam and classes that end in an AP exam, that those teachers can make real-time connections daily, all 5 days, so that they can further move their curriculum forward to get to that benchmark. So there will be a variety of real-time connections throughout your child's experience while they are learning from home. And those real-time connections will be delivered in different ways. I'm seeing questions about clarifying what streaming is versus, that is just one of the techniques that teachers might use, where they are delivering the same lesson in person to the students that are at home learning. But it is no guarantee that if a teacher is not streaming, that they will get the identical lesson. All it means, by the end of the week, the teacher will have set objectives for the week, learning objectives. And by the end of the week, all students will get to the same place. They just might get there in different ways on different days, depending on what days they're in and what days they are home. But every teacher will take a different approach, and they will meet those learning objectives. Are we still doing the SAT, Dr. Mitchell?
Still doing I'm sorry?
The SAT?
Yes, as of now, the cancellation of the SAT would be a College Board decision. As of now, we are still scheduled for the SAT, the first of which is this Saturday.
Great. Is there going to be busing for 9th grade?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, I believe, Dr. Harrington spoke further on the transportation in her previous meeting. So more information will come out in regard to transportation shortly.
If your child simply has allergies, does that mean they can't come to school?
No, and this is part of that parent assurance that I spoke of at the beginning. Obviously, some symptoms of COVID are also related to symptoms of allergies. So with that parent assurance, we are asking, your knowledge of your child as best as when to send and when not to send. Our nurses would evaluate, symptoms if presented during the school day with our separate nurses office room. But we are understanding that there are some symptoms of COVID, can come out in other common illnesses as well.
Is it possible, Dr. Mitchell, several parents have asked this, that we could be out of the hybrid model and into a full-time model at some point this school year?
Well, that would be wonderful, but yeah, we're going to wait on New York State guidance, and obviously, those kind of decisions will be based on health and safety and protocol, and of course, New York State, Nassau County, and Department of Health guidance too.
There's several questions about families who picked up Chromebooks today, and those Chromebooks don't seem to be working. What can they do?
Well, yeah, we do have several technology help centers, resource centers, but you could also email the tech team too. Let us know if you find on our Oceanside High School webpage, there is a link for technology support.
A couple of questions. Dance team and cheerleading, has that been canceled?
Is Keith
Dance
or
team.
Mr. McKeel, is that the virtual club?
No, so in regards to the dance team and cheerleading or any other sports, we are getting more. There was information obviously put out today with the governor. I know we've been getting a lot of questions. However, we are looking for more guidance from Section 8. So we will have more answers as this week goes on to exactly, specifically what sports are going to be played and what that actually means, whether it's with competition or without competition. So as this week goes on, you'll get more information on that.
And Dr. Mitchell, how can students sing properly for their chorus class with a mask on? And will the rules that you indicated previously to performing music groups also apply to band?
Correct. Yeah. Sorry if I didn't mention band. Yes. So basically, there are even further social distance requirements for some of those courses in connection with Mr. Brace, who's analyzing and looking at the class rosters and class sizes to determine the best course of action for those classes. We'll figure out, we want to be safe and healthy in those classes, so students will be able to still play their instruments or sing and dance, but being safe and healthy.
Great. I'm just looking. Can kids bring their own hand sanitizer?
Yes.
Okay. Can you comment on if a teacher's out for an extended period of time, will the kids in the class still get instruction?
Yes, the students will still be receiving instruction. We're going to follow all, again, like I said, New York State Department of Health, Nassau County requirements as it relates to quarantining for both students and staff, but instruction will continue for students.
Band classes, I think you answered this, have to be socially distanced like the others, right?
Correct.
A lot of questions just asking for clarification about mask breaks.
I'm sorry, say that one again, sorry.
A ton of questions asking for clarification about mask breaks, Dr. Mitchell.
Sure. So mask breaks, and this will be in the FAQ document that I send out tomorrow afternoon after the morning meeting. Basically, just kind of clarifying what mask breaks are and where they will occur. We are working. Our administrative team is working on the best protocol for mask breaks. The idea now is that mask breaks won't necessarily occur during classroom instruction time in the particular classroom. If a student needs a mask break, we'll have designated areas throughout the building where they can go for that break. The onus for those mask breaks won't be on the teachers during the room instruction, though.
And some families have said that they had put in for the virtual school, but have not heard any confirmation that their child is in. Will they be getting a confirmation, or should they have already gotten that if they were allowed to be in the virtual school?
So when you receive your schedule and cohort group on Wednesday, that will indicate virtual, blue, or white. So you'll know that on Wednesday. If it's unclear, you can obviously contact the office.
Okay, I think we might be at the. Are there students who are going to be allowed to wear no mask because of a medical exemption?
I have not received any medical exemptions for mask breaks for masks as of now. That's something I'll continue to monitor, of course.
It looks like, I think there's questions about concerts, but I think as Dr. Harrington said, no concerts, at least for the foreseeable future.
At least for now, yeah. I would say, we are going to work with our music and fine arts team. We know how important those performances are for students. We know how much it means to them, especially our upperclassmen as they, grow near to the end of their high school careers. So we'll be mindful of that, and we'll be looking for opportunities for them to, demonstrate and show everything they can do.
Looks like that's it, Dr. Mitchell. I think people keep asking how many minutes is each class. In a regular school day, if you're in school and we're in the hybrid model, it's 42 minutes. At home, that remote schedule has a 55-minute period, but our typical school day has 42-minute periods. And asking what the actual first day of classes will be. We have that orientation, the 8th through the 11th, but then the first official week of regular instruction is Monday, September 14th.
Correct. And I see one of the questions, as of now, driver's ed for the fall is at the very least postponed. If we're waiting further instruction from New York State Department on when and if they will allow driver's ed instruction to occur. So more on that to come. Hopefully, we'll see. It is certainly delayed for now.
And I'm seeing questions about twins. I don't know if that's, I guess, not for the same classes, but I'm guessing were twins put in the same cohort, but we said siblings are in the same cohort, right? Not
Households will
necessarily
be
in
in
the
the
same
same
class.
cohort. Yep, households will be in the same cohort.
But I'm wondering if that question is referring to twins to mediate exposure, twins in the same classes.
I do not know that, no.
Okay.
As of now, I know the cohorts definitely kept the same households together. I don't think the same, necessarily the same classes.
Yes, and the parent just clarified and said they meant the same classes, not the same cohort. Oh, I see a lot of questions about lockers. No lockers. Kids will have to carry a backpack, and questions about whether they have to carry their jacket all day if they wear one. As of now, yes, we're not using lockers
for now, and that's really, that's a health and safety thing. That's to keep our hallways less congested. We, for the time being, we are so focused on hallway congestion, hallway traffic that the use of lockers right now wasn't practical for us.
And how does that apply? Last question of the night. How does that apply to gym lockers then, Dr. Mitchell? Do they have to change for gym this year?
I'm still waiting for further clarification from Mr. Reisner on exactly what that will look like. As we said, PE classes will be, a little bit different to start the year in terms of, not using equipment, focusing on, mental health and wellness for sure, and physical fitness. But I will get more answers on the gym lockers as soon as I can.
I think you got to the end. I just want to say to Dr. Mitchell, I see a couple of more clarifying questions about RTC and parents just wanting. Any parent can feel free to email me. We did our best to explain in a short window of time here, but I'm happy to take any questions. bzirianis@oceansideschools.org. You can find me on the website. I'd be happy to clarify anything and even call if you have a further question about those real-time connection periods.
Yeah, and I would just like to wrap up, again, by thanking you, the families, the parents, the guardians, the students. I know this is a difficult time. I know we're feeling anxious and a little bit concerned, and all these questions, as parents ourselves, we have them too. So our goal tonight, with Ms. Mazin and Mr. McKeel and Dr. Zirianis was to hopefully, help answer some of those questions. But I'm sure, later tonight, something else might pop into your head. So please continue to contact us as much as possible. We will have tomorrow morning a 9 a.m. session. You're welcome to attend that again. You'll hear much of the same information. And like I said, we'll be presenting, we'll be putting out updated FAQ documents at the conclusion of tomorrow's meeting. So I do want to thank Mr. McKeel, Ms. Mazin, and Dr. Zirianis for joining us. I want to thank the teachers of Oceanside High School who have worked tirelessly this summer in helping us with this work. With they're preparing nonstop to do their best for your children, and we really do feel we've created a really safe, healthy model of instruction that's going to drive their education forward. That's really, making the best of this situation. As I said, there's no perfect solution to this right now, but we really feel comfortable. We're excited for the school year to start, and thank you for joining us tonight. So thanks, everybody. And see you tomorrow at 9 if you want to join again.